September. It's Happy New Year to any Methodists around there. We are actually dealing now with what we've described on the blog as was it battery panic we called it?
Yes.
We ran into two main problems with our electric motor system. One caused by me not understanding things properly, and one caused by the world not understanding things properly. We are rushing now with a slight rearrangement of some of our priorities. We've said for quite a while that getting solar working was our number one priority. We haven't forgotten that, and the things we're doing are part of that chain, but they're also part of the chain to, as quickly as possible, get our electric motor and batteries installed, working, tested, signed off. That means today we're struggling this whole week with rain pretty much forecast every day. It keeps giving heavy showers today. I'll go and show you what we're doing right at this minute.
Okay. Well,
Which, if Jane pokes the camera down there, you can see,
don't step out into the cockpit without looking.
that we've taken up the cockpit floor, and the reason is we need to move. Can you see my hand?
Yes.
We need to move the electric motor out of the motor compartment in order to do some AC wiring that's needed for the solar. We've got to put in a proper circuit breaker between the isolation transformer and the Victron Multi Plus 2. We've got the Ekrano controller to plug into the Multi Plus 2 so we get better information. And then we've got all the connections somewhere down there into our current two battery banks. And then we've got wiring coming through here to go to the solar controllers. Got buzz bars to install, isolation switches, circuit breakers.
Controller?
Beg your pardon?
The motor controller.
Oh, the motor, and then stuff, that was all for solar. And then for the motor, we've got to install the motor controller, water cooling, circuit breakers, etc, etc. Our first job then is to get the motor out. Because the weather's so bad, we're going to lift it slightly, pull it sideways into where I am, which is the corridor to the aft cabin, and then we're going to put it into the saloon, hopefully on its side under the galley extension. Got the block and tackle rigged up. Jane's going to pull from above. I'm going to shout from below.
We're not good enough to manage recording while we're doing it, so we'll
update you again in a minute.
Right. As you can see, we managed to raise it up, or I pulled it up, and Dave manoeuvred it into the corridor.
And it went very, very easily.
Yes.
We'd forgotten, actually, that it's an easy job to do. We built it up in our heads to something big. If Jane comes down the ladder and shows you what it looks like in the corridor.
Yes. Now this is going to be a little bit tricky because we'll have to move. We've got the reflex heater here now, which is somewhat in the way.
Well, once we take the companionway steps out of the way, it'll be fine.
Out.
You can see we've got these two fore and aft bearers, which are, well, cross pieces, which are what will rest on the motor mounts. And that makes the whole thing wide enough to span across the engine bay.
Yes,
but they're right in the way for getting into the saloon and storing it. So I'm going to undo the four large bolts that hold these sides and these cross beams in position.
Fingers crossed it doesn't seize up.
Gradually slide it through into the saloon, and it'll be out the way. There's a few bits and pieces in the engine bilge. A screwdriver I'd lost.
Oh, yep.
The lid to one of the sprays from WD-40.
Oh, lovely.
Anyway,
right.
You can see now without the motor there, and particularly on days when it's not raining hard and we can take out the cockpit floor, there's a lot more light and access to get on with these jobs. Just got to store the motor somewhere for a while.
Minor problem. Right, well, we're planning to store it over here. I'll just show you. Not quite empty yet. Nearly ready. We'll see how that goes. Hello, it's Wednesday the 3rd of September and it feels like autumn has definitely come. It's a bit chilly and it's horrible and wet and grey.
90% chance of rain all day. And so far it's been 100%.
We figured we would not go outside and we would tell you a few things about what we've been doing yesterday when it was quite a nice day. I spent most of yesterday sewing on my Sailrite sewing machine, which I was very pleased with the fact that I've got to grips with. And I made a new mesh shelf with some tape around the edges, and we're going to put our vegetables in this because currently we keep our vegetables in a rather revolting old cold bag. They don't like it there because there's not enough ventilation. So we're hoping that if we put them in this, they'll keep better. They keep going mushy.
We're going to temporarily hang that in the forward head toilet compartment because we are only using that for storage.
Yes, we're not using it as a toilet. And also we were very, very lucky to get this mesh fabric. I looked at some mesh fabric online. It was very expensive and we got this via the charity shop in Mayes.
A real bargain.
Yes, very much a real bargain. I managed to finally finish the seat back cover that we're now leaning on, so we'll have to stand up to show you. It was in stages. Maybe I'll just get it down to show you. I put the Velcro on it yesterday, so it's Velcro to the back of the seat back, which is quite successful. Doesn't even want to come off. And we bought the Velcro to put the main cushions on. We never used it, so it's got Velcro on a flap, and then it has ties which tie the duvet to the cover in the pocket, and it's been working. It stayed up all night, whereas normally it slumps down and you have to try and plump it up in the morning. Happy with that. Success.
Just as a reminder, that's our guest double duvet.
Oh yes, we didn't just put a duvet in there for the sake of it.
That we're keeping there.
Oh dear.
And we've cleared this bench now because one of the jobs we're going to do this morning is to go through again all the bits for the electrical system. Because we keep buying extra bits and they arrive in a box, you get the boxes are all higgledy-piggledy, and
it's
we
very
want to try
confusing.
and sort things out by sort of system. The job I'm going to do today, which is the 12-volt electrical panel.
Yes.
Let me just show you where that is. It was basically a dead panel, trim only. The previous owner had a sticker about what to do in emergency and one switch on it. Because this panel hides the cockpit coaming up there, a great big gap, it means that at this side there's enough depth to put the 12-volt switch panels. Everything else has to either be mounted flush or on a sticky out panel. That's going to have two switches straight to the battery, one for each one of these panels, so we can divide things up and have only half on if we want to. This is, I mentioned earlier in the video, the Ekrano control for all the Victron systems, and it needs to have the 12-volt power supply. That's why I'm doing 12-volt now, so I can get that connected. But also down here, that's, oh, it's very dark, but that's the 12-volt battery, which is going to be eventually boxed in somewhere there. I'll just bring a torch. And another reason for wanting that working is also tucked under here somewhere is the Wi-Fi booster from Digital Yacht.
It's here, isn't it, on the shelf?
No, it's down here.
Oh.
So that's connected to this large antenna to the mizzen mast, and it's the only thing at the moment using a 12-volt supply. And since I moved all this around, I don't have the battery charger, And of course, as yet, we don't have any 48 volt battery banks to charge this 12 volt battery. So it's kind of everything's connected together, but it needs to be done in the right order. Here is our empty motor area, which does mean that you can sit down and get your feet in there and move around. And this is what I was working on yesterday. We've got the wire coming in from the 32 amp shore power socket, and that comes in a bit tidier into our galvanic isolation transformer. This was a bargain. We got it as a return, and the box is a bit bent, as you perhaps can see at that edge. It was refurbished and all tested, but the box is definitely nothing like a clean rectangle. I've moved it slightly. It was over there. I've moved it here, and it's no longer just hanging on a bracket at the top. It's also bolted at the bottom, so it wouldn't fall out if we were to capsize. So I've moved that. I've added this RCD, which has the really expensive and fancy detector, which is a B-class RCD, which means it would trigger on not just AC problems, but if there were floating DC or any other kind of problem. So that acts between the isolation transformer and the multiplus. So if you're not familiar with the multiplus, is multiplus 2, and this connects together our 240 volt AC and our battery banks, or one battery bank anyway. You get AC coming in and AC coming out, and I've rerouted the AC coming out. I'll show you. Got a consumer unit just the other side of there. If we're not connected to shore power, then this is connected to one of the 48 volt battery banks and turns the 48 volt DC into AC. So we can run our hob and oven and so on AC supplied by the battery bank. It also acts as a battery charger. So when we're connected to AC, this acts as a 70 amp 48 volt battery charger. In terms of cost, it was nearly as expensive just to buy a charger that powerful as this multiplus. So it's basically connecting AC to charge batteries, and when you don't have AC, it's using the batteries to power the AC systems. As I said before, I want to connect to that Ekrano display, which will give us the information to set its parameters easily and so on. So that's why I'm doing the 12 volt system. Once we've got this connected to the 12 volt system and displaying things, then you've got two holes there which are going to have watertight seals on them. That will go through to the main house 48 volt battery bank. So that's the battery bank that the multiplus will charge and the multiplus will draw power from. And below that, in that shape there, you can perhaps just see two holes which go to our lower battery bank, and this is where we'll go and sit down and explain how Dave didn't understand battery banks. So we'll turn off, sit down and come back to you. And now my lovely assistant is lifting the lid on our AC consumer unit, which is hidden behind and below the steps. It's well back. It will have water protection in front of it, but that's the distribution circuit breakers, etc. for AC, which currently all the things wired into it are actually 4 or 5 way extension leads as a temporary solution.
Temporary. We want to make sure you realise that's just temporary.
We've got the proper blue Arctic AC cable, and we're going to run that once we've decided where it's going to. Just temporary, but it gives us some security of how we're running things at the moment. Okay, so we said battery panic.
We did. It was.
It's huge panic. We thought we were really stymied and weren't going to be able to get the electric motor working because...
On a number of fronts.
The first thing that happened is my lack of understanding and getting particularly confused between a battery's storage capacity in ampere hours,
yeah.
and its delivery, it's the current it can deliver in amps. And I knew that our motor controller and motor need 48 volts and 600 amps, and I got confused because we bought batteries that were 12 volt, and we knew we would put 4 of them together to give us in series, which would give us 48 volts, and each of the 4 was 300 ampere hours.
Ampere hours, yes.
But that doesn't give you, it turns out, yes, everybody's laughing at me for not knowing what I'm talking about.
It's confusing because they're in
series,
made into a 48 volt bank. They can only deliver the same current as one would on its own. They've got it's like a huge reservoir. It's trying to visualise it. It's like a huge reservoir, but it's only got a very small opening.
A small
tap.
So
you can only get maybe if your battery management will let you 200 amps max, or possibly 300 if you're lucky.
So the problem is that our battery plans have grown organically. We started buying these particular batteries when we were planning a large 12 volt battery bank, so they would be in parallel. At that point the amps get added, so we could do 600 amps at 12 volts, but when we go to 48 volts we can only do 200 amps. So somewhere in all of that I lost the plot, got confused, and we've ended up with 4 300 ampere 12 volt batteries and 4 120 ampere batteries, and there's no way to get out of that set of batteries the current that we need for the electric motor.
Probably draw it for very long, but the power curve also, it's confusing because the power curve on an electric motor is quite different from the power draw curve of a diesel motor. They're not really related, and when you talk about how many horsepower is your motor, it doesn't really make much sense with an electric motor.
So the electric motor has full torque all the time up to its sort of best operating point at which it plummets. So you've got full torque in this range, and the amps go up within that. So
it's all to do with the load you're drawing off it, basically. If you want to get the best load draw off it, you need to be able to draw off it a large current. So if your batteries can't provide that much current and the motor demands it, then what we were concerned about was that the batteries would disconnect themselves. The battery monitoring system that lithium batteries have would say, can't deliver that much current, we're shutting off, and then you get nothing. We've been exploring every possible way of getting batteries that would deliver the right amount of current, whether it would be buy more of the same, and we would need 12 batteries instead of the 4. So it would be 4 in series plus another 4 in series plus another 4 in series. So you would have 3 lots of 48 volt batteries essentially, each giving 200 amps, and you would add the 200 amps together. That would be fine. And we were trying to work out not just how much would that cost, a lot, but they are huge, those batteries. We've got one out at the moment, but we've got it covered to stop
covered just for safety. But these are big, and very, very heavy batteries. Trying to fit 12 batteries like that would be impossible. Currently, we've got 4 of them neatly in.
Well, it wouldn't be impossible. It would just very difficult and take up quite a lot of space we were hoping to use for water.
Yeah.
Which is, you can't
So-
just put them up on the ceiling. You've got to have them low down.
And even if we scatter them around the boat, that creates extra problems, because you need to make sure that the wiring has the same resistance for every bank. If the wiring is different lengths for bank A versus bank B, then the current will come from the shorter,
Yes,
lower
the
resistance.
bank won't work as one unit. It will. Get
So that was
unbalanced.
we kind of were struggling with that. So then we looked at, well, could we buy batteries that had a slightly higher ability to provide amps and maybe need a bit fewer of them, or they would be smaller. In the end, we have settled on spending quite a lot of money that we didn't want to spend at all, and it's our retirement money, on 4 24 volt batteries from a British company. We're just negotiating with them at the moment. If we get 24 volt batteries, you only need 2 of them in series to get your 48 volts. And because these batteries can deliver 300 amps each, we only need 4 of them. We're going to just buy this extra set of 4 batteries that will be dedicated to the electric motor.
Well, that links very nicely into the other side of the problem, which is the insurance.
It's both insurance and connected to it where the British standards are in relation to electric motors, which is they haven't really caught up. And certainly compared to what the majority of electric motor conversions that we see, which are American, British standards are way behind the ABYC American standards. 2 real problems that's caused us. The first is they want the electric motor system to be electrically separate from everything else. We had been working on having the idea of a really big single battery bank, giving us much more flexibility. So you can use that battery bank for the motor, or you can use that battery bank for your cooking and so on.
And we felt that gave us better security, because if we were needing the motor, we would stop using house loads and reduce those as much as possible, and then prioritise the motor. If we knew we weren't needing the motor, we wouldn't have to worry if it was cloudy for a few days and we didn't get much solar in, because we could draw on a bigger battery bank.
Yeah.
But
Having a single battery bank has a lot more flexibility. You can use the pot for whatever you want.
But
we
the
can't
British
do that.
standards say no, you must
Yeah.
keep them separate. So okay, we accepted that. That's one of the factors that played into what we're thinking about. But the other one was literally the prospect, which we've been discussing with friends in the boatyard, of will you actually be able to get an insurer to give you cover when you have a lithium battery bank which powers your motor. Apparently, if you have a lithium battery bank which is just your house bank, they don't really seem to notice.
Yeah.
They don't ask you about it. But as soon as you say you've got an electric motor, they say, oh, lithium batteries, oh,
And
they're going to explode, they're going to catch fire.
to which we owe a great debt of gratitude to Elon Musk for building rubbish cars that keep catching fire.
And trying to make claims for them, which apparently are rather
Bogus.
stretched.
Thanks to Elon Musk's and Tesla's catching fire all the time, insurers think that lithium batteries are unsafe. The reality is we have the types of lithium batteries we're using that people use on boats are a completely different chemistry to what Teslas and other electric cars use, as are what's called LiFePO, Li lithium, Fe iron, and PO phosphate.
Yes.
4. Don't know what the 4's for. Lithium. So anyway, so LiFePO is what they're nicknamed as, and these don't catch fire. They don't give off gases. They don't get over hot.
You do have to check the temperature. You do have to monitor it.
But they monitor, the batteries do that themselves. I mean, the
Yeah.
batteries come with a monitoring system that would say, oh, you're trying to charge me too full, I will turn off. It's too cold, I will turn off. I'm too hot, I will turn off. They're not dangerous. So because they're so paranoid about this, the insurance companies, they won't insure a DIY installation, even if you're just buying off the shelf components. And we've been trying to find ways to get our installations certified, but they're just passing the buck down the chain. The insurers say, get your surveyor to pass it. The surveyor says, my insurance won't cover me to pass it, so get an electrical installer to pass it. The electrical installer says, I can't pass things I haven't installed. So they just pass the chain, the buck down the chain. We've looked at a number of ways to deal with this. You can go for, in a sense, a slightly dodgy insurance policy where they don't ask questions, but then will you get any cover? We've looked at becoming formally a company, a business, and taking out insurance.
Either as a sole trader or as a limited company.
Yeah, taking out insurance, becoming a member of the British Marine Federation and so on, and they will accept that, the insurance company.
That was a route we were definitely thinking of doing.
But it's not cheap, and the first insurance quote that we've got doesn't cover everything we would need. It doesn't cover professional indemnity, so it could still come back to us if somebody made a claim.
Well, particularly sole traders. Yes.
Yeah. So we've been reaching out to any company we can find to say, well, will you install what we've already got for us? And we have found a lovely small company who are based down on the south coast, coming in.
But they're willing to come.
7 days.
Very, very kindly spoken for quite a while to Dave about the whole system and what we were hoping to do, and agreed to come and visit to see what we've got, to make sure that when they do come to install it, we'll have everything they need, and they can just do it, because obviously if they're coming all the way from Southampton, we don't want them to have to keep coming backwards and forwards.
No, that's kind of our real push at the moment, is to get everything ready so they can see how much work they will have to do. We're not going to connect any wires, but everything, all the components will be in the right places, we hope, so that they can simply make a wire, because
obviously they have to do that
they
themselves.
have to do that themselves to be confident the crimps are okay and so on. They'll make the wires, make the connections, commission the motor. That's why we've got a bit of a deadline and a rush at the moment to make progress.
But it does have the benefit that we've now bought the Curtis motor controller programmer.
Yes, it's over here.
And it was going to be a steep learning curve to work out how to use it. So we're now thinking, well, at least we don't have to worry, because somebody who knows what they're doing is going to do it now.
We did buy this, it's a kind of, we actually bought it through Amazon, but it is kind of the Alibaba type product. And
well, it's labelled with their name.
Yes.
Anyway.
This device will allow us to fully program our motor controller, which we hadn't been able to do before, and it was about a tenth of the price of what I'd looked at a few years ago, the official way of doing it. And that not only will be able to set the parameters of how the motor controller draws power, but we hope that will allow us to eventually be able to program the electric motor to be a generator to do regen, so that when we are sailing, we can let the propeller spin, go into the electric motor, that spins, that generates electricity, which comes back into the battery bank. All being well. There's a lot of things
down the line. We've got to get it working first.
So we're going to have these 4 batteries, and we've managed to rejig where we're going to do it. Instead of having a kitchen bin behind the steps, there will be a new battery box on top of the other battery boxes with these 4 batteries, and that means they're nicely positioned for very short cable runs into there. We can put a waterproof box around them, and they are reasonably low. About 2/3 of the total height of those batteries will be below the waterline, so that's good for stability.
And they're not taking up space we were planning to use for water.
No, it was going to be toolboxes.
Tools.
There,
oh well,
I think.
who needs tools?
Well, Panic isn't completely over, but we do feel
we've still got to get hold of these batteries, which is another thing in itself.
They're being released in a couple of days' time as a brand new one.
Keep all your fingers and toes crossed for us, because a bit of prayer might help.
Yes, the other thing then is the 8 batteries we have at the moment, how are we using those? The big 4, the 300 amp hour ones, are going to be our main house battery bank. That gives us, what did you calculate,
Well, I
maybe
think
even
it's 10 days.
10 days
Potentially.
without any charge
If we're not
going into it at
going
all,
crazy.
if we're doing minimal cooking, which gives you a nice big buffer for an English winter where there isn't going to be much sun. The other 4 batteries, which are right down deep in the bilge, and so we couldn't use that space really for anything else, so we might as well keep them. We're calling that our booster bank, and so that will get some of the smaller solar power going into it, and then we can use that with a DC to DC charger to charge the main house bank and boost that up. There will be a value, and they're not just there as a way to keep help with stability. And then we'll have the third bank, which is the electric motor only. Each of the 3 banks will have some solar going into it.
I was just going to say, it's been another thing trying to work out which solar to put into which bank.
Yeah.
It's been
so each one will get some solar going directly into it, because that's more efficient than putting all the solar into one place. So each gets some solar, and then we've found a new product again from a company called Sterling, which will allow us to have a very fast DC to DC charger between the main house bank and the motor battery. That means that if we're running the motor and running out of power, out of storage, electrical storage in there, we can boost it from our house bank quite quickly. In fact, quickly enough that if you are motoring slowly, you're basically going to be taking all the power from the house bank. And that will also be used when we're charging up. If we go to plug in at a marina or somewhere, the AC power that I was showing you a minute ago will go into the house bank, and then the house bank can pass on about half the incoming power directly into the motor bank. So you're filling them both up from the mains power overnight when you're plugged in at a marina. It's the best we can do, and the neat thing about this Sterling thing is it can run the other way as well. It can reverse itself. So again, if we are at anchor for a very long time in awful winter weather and our house bank is getting low, we can charge it more slowly from the booster bank while there's some power in there, and we can also charge it a little bit more quickly from the motor bank. So we might end up after a long period of bad weather with all 3 banks pretty low, but hopefully we can balance between them and choose where we want to have the power kept.
That's the theory.
Lots of theory. We're going to be rushing to try and get all these things in place to get the 12-volt bank working, to get the solar coming into the first 2 banks, and everything ready for these people to come for the motor installation consultation visit.
Say that quickly 3 times.
Okay, I think that'll probably be a whole video all on its own. But right, we'll show you as we go, sorting out these different projects. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe,
yes, please
and go to our blog, sustainablesailing.net, where you can become an early bird supporter.
Yes, and help us pay for our new whopping big battery bank.
Help us pay for the battery bank, but also help us to keep this idea of sustainable sailing going, so that we can encourage others to be more sustainable in their journeys, because everything we see about the world and about the climate shows how necessary it is for us to make these big changes to stop burning fossil fuels, stop damaging the planet, and stop hurting vulnerable communities. That's what sustainable sailing is about. That's why we want your support. Thanks very much. Take care.
Bye. Bye.